Hello, my name is Natalia Yermak. I'm a reporter at the Kyiv Independent, and I'm here today with Daniel Bilak, a Canadian-Ukrainian lawyer who has lived in Ukraine for decades, taking on many roles. He has worked in the Ukrainian government, luring in foreign investments, and since the start of the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, he has joined the Ukrainian Territorial Defense Forces. Daniel, thank you for being here. Could you please tell us what is your connection to Ukraine and what have you been involved in so far?
I first came to Ukraine in October of 1991 for two reasons. One, I was starting a legal foundation with some young, we were all young then, people's deputies to enact legal reform as part of Ukraine's transformation from a Soviet system of governance to a democratic system of governance. The second reason was I was a lawyer in Toronto, a good Ukrainian village, and I was acting for the Canadian Banknote Company, which is a company that prints currency for Canada as well as around the world, and they were going to be printing the new hryvnia. In 2016 to 2019, I was invited to become Prime Minister Groysman's chief advisor on investments and head of Ukraine Invest, which was the government's investment promotion office.
You're working with investments a lot. Would you say it's safe for foreign businesses to invest in Ukraine at the moment?
I'm in charge of an international law firm. In addition to my work in Teroborona in the Territorial Defense Forces, I'm a civilian soldier. So when I put on my civilian hat, I'm a lawyer. And our firm, Kinsteller, works very, very deeply. And I think I'm hoping that we've now developed a leading practice in the area of defense industry, of the defense industrial base. I'm quite sensitive to what are trends in investment. And clearly the most immediate trend is investing in the defense sector. And that includes large prime contractors, as they're called. Rheinmetall, KNDS, Babcock, Northrop Grumman, these are global giants. BAE Systems, all of whom are looking to invest in Ukraine, as well as Miltech, the military technology sector, which involves, especially in the area of the drone space, very important. And it's very hard for me to even convey what a seismic shift this is in the economy and for the military. And a lot of these big companies, when they're coming into Ukraine now, for the first time, nobody was ever allowed in before, but now they're coming in with their investments, their technology, their know-how, their management know-how, very importantly. It's easier to do defense manufacturing now in Ukraine than in almost any other place in Europe, because we have a very big need for that. Then you have the other side, which is drones. And, you know, we are advancing technologically. Some British companies told me we're 30 years ahead of them because our technologies go through iterations and generational changes every 3 months instead of every 3 years. And nobody can keep up with this pace of change. And so there are ways for Ukrainian drone companies and drone companies abroad to work together because they need access to our technologies, and we need access to some of their technologies and to their components because we want to swap out the Chinese components and use British or US or German or from other countries. This year, we need to get around the issue of export licenses because that's a politically charged issue. A lot of our companies are saying, look, we're going to have to start manufacturing abroad to get to the scale that we need to produce at to get kit to the front lines. That's our biggest challenge. It's great to have these technologies, but if you can't produce 100,000 drones or 10,000 drones a month, that technology is not really helping the country. So on the one hand, there's that, but then there's also other places that would like to buy our technology and our drones. And so you have to put export licenses and proper protections around that, just like the United States does with its ITAR systems. The British, the Canadians, everybody has their own. So we need to figure that out, but it needs to be done soon because we need this industry to grow. We cannot control its growth and hope to be able to win this war. But yet at the same time, we are also now messaging to the private sector that we're open for business and you can operate as you would in a relatively free market. There are these tensions between the national security needs and operating in a free market and exporting abroad. The political question or issue for the government will be, if we allow this, how do we explain to the Ukrainian citizen that we're allowing exports abroad and that all of this is not going to the front lines? That's a conversation that's going to have to be had, but we have good communicators in government. They're going to have to figure that out. I think that allowing them to produce for the procurement demands that the Ukrainian military has and the Ministry of Defense has lays the groundwork and the foundation for further growth and development of their businesses in Ukraine and globally. I mean, we will become a really essential part of the global supply chains of these military giants down the road. But we will also develop our own. We could end up becoming a major hub and other countries becoming major supply chain providers for us in the drone sector, for example. Once the war ends, we are going to become a major military exporter of military kit to other countries. Things that we're developing now that nobody else has. Things that we're inventing because we have to. There's nothing like facing extinction and annihilation to focus the mind on new and developing creative ways to defeat the enemy.
What would be the factors to ensure that Ukraine's economy could develop and rebuild after the war? And what would you say should the end of the war look like for Ukraine to be in a position to prosper?
Ultimate goal should be that Russia can never do this again. But we need our partners to do this. But once the war ends, I mean, we will continue to produce military goods, but we will have lots of other things to do. We have whole cities to rebuild. It's going to be a massive push forward to do this. Energy sector, which is also part of infrastructure, but I mean, we are not going to go back to building massive Soviet-era design or Soviet-designed hydroelectric plants or nuclear plants, for example. We may move to small mobile nuclear reactors. We may have to move to something smaller in terms of district heating operations, because we can't make these targets paint big bullseyes on top of big plants anymore. So there's the national security aspects are going to become part of the design of the economic aspect of rebuilding Ukraine. We will want to move to green energy. We don't want to be spewing hydrocarbons out I mean, Ukraine is going to be polluted enough after this war. And that was always going to be the challenge. How do you transition from the Soviet-era monster and grossly inefficient district or huge power plants into something that's more environmentally friendly and more efficient? Well, the war has taken care of that question for us. But it's not just that. It's also how we build buildings. We have to we're not going to be pouring concrete made of, straw and macaroni anymore that, doesn't hold heat or doesn't hold cool temperatures. So we're going to have to rethink whole cities. And that's an incredibly exciting process. Ukrainians are extraordinarily talented people. This is one of the things I love about living here is that, everything is possible. Ukrainians complain a lot, but then they go out and they make it happen. And so having that vision, when I was at Ukraine Invest, one of the things that we really focused on was the regions. And this is really fundamental politically going forward. We are not a nation with a history of centralized government, at least not our own. It's always been somebody else's. So Ukrainians, unlike Russians, don't like power. They don't like government. As soon as we elect a president, next day everybody starts complaining. Ukrainians are a country of local governance. And so the hromady, the oblasts, this is where these conversations need to take place. And I think that decentralization is probably the single most important reform that took place in Ukraine since independence, because it gave power back to the communities. And we're still a big country. We have 10 million of our citizens living abroad. People say, they're never coming back. If they have jobs, if they have schools for their kids to come back to, if they have clean water, they have electricity, everyone will come home. Because at the end of the day, you're a foreigner, no matter where else you're going to be. And everybody loves their horod. Everybody loves their little garden and their families and the cemeteries where their ancestors are buried for hundreds of years. They'll come back, but they will bring back with them new experiences that they've had working in EU countries, now into Ukraine that is going to become an EU country. And that's also profoundly exciting, is to come back and rebuild something. And if the parents don't want to come back, I'm sure the kids will, because it'll be really cool to be Ukrainian.